So, I mean, there was some allegations that were made in the public statements in regards to emotional, physical, and financial damage, and then the relapsing into substance abuse. And then there were some other allegations that TJ had made, or accusations, in the interview with Altcoin Daily. He talked about the first assault with him, because he's saying there was multiple, was when that you were he was pinned in a chair, you had your head against his forehead. Me and you talked a little bit privately about that. Was that an incident? Did that
Very
take place?
early on in the days of the business, TJ and I, we had a lot of words with each other, but that's all that it was words. Neither one of us has ever struck the other one. Neither one of us has ever pushed the other one. Neither one of us has ever headbutted each other. There has never been any physical contact between TJ and I, and that is done in a forceful way. Certainly, there have been times where we've been very heated and we've been very close to each other, and our bodies may, I mean, when you are, into it with someone, you're really young. Sometimes you're very close to each other. Your bodies can be next to each other, but there's never been a strike or a force or an action that has been done in a way to hurt the other person, and that's on his side and that's on my side. And the situation you're referring to, that was a situation of two guys that were very heated in an argument, and we were right up next to each other, and that's all that it was. And the allegation that there's been multiple physical is absolutely false. It's 100% false. And in fact, that the assault has been walked back by Hit Network already. They had to change it to attempted assault. I guess they just thought that they were going to be able to get out there and make up lies and allegations against me. And like, I was going to be like, all right, guys, they said this, I guess it's true. Absolutely not.
Okay, well, sticking with the assault stuff, he mentioned that next one, which would have been Monday, the 21st of August. And then he also mentions another individual. He mentions an individual that there was an altercation that ultimately led into a settlement that cost the company money. Towards the end of the interview, he alluded that, based off a question that was given by Altcoin Daily, was alluding that was J Chains. Did you get into a physical altercation with J Chains that caused him to ultimately leave Hit Network or Bitboy Crypto at the time?
That's false. That's false. Justin and I have been friends for a long time. And Justin and I, we have had times in our career with each other and our relationship with each other that have been tense. But what I can tell you is that is absolutely not why J Chains left Hit Network. And the reason why he left is private. Is for him to say if he wants to say. But that is not at all what happened. Justin and I, we had an intense argument. People saw it. People saw what occurred. That is not why he left. He left about a month after we were in that intense conversation. And of course, it's being used. And look, guys, I don't know if people know this, but basically the long and the short of it is that J Chains, and I hope he doesn't mind me saying this, but J Chains was told by people on the other side that if he did not tell what happened the way they wanted him to, that they were going to tell his story for him. And those are the tactics of the other side. And that's absolutely what happened. And
interesting.
I'm pretty sure that he would stand by and say that is true. And he would also say that the incident that occurred between us is not ultimately what put him out the door. Certainly there were some intense moments. That was the bottom of the bear market pretty much in terms of price wise. Sentiment may be a little worse now, but that was the bottom of the bear market, guys. And it was very intense at work. We had a Tozy lawsuit going on. There was a lot of stress. And like I said, the Tozy lawsuit was much harder on the employees than it was on me, because I can take that stuff in stride. And there were a lot of people that were worried. And it's one of these things, when somebody goes through something hard, you say, oh, they must be feeling like this. They've got to just be downtrodden about it. I've learned to let stuff just roll off my back. Yes, I can, in the heat of the moment, sometimes it may look like, I care and very passionate about different things, but overall I can take a step back and I can look and say, okay, every situation that occurs on social media, with rare exception, is going to blow over. And I knew the Atozi case was, but there were other people in the building who could not see that. And I went to Alaska and came back and it was pretty much over. And the reason that Justin left the building, it actually had a lot more to do, or I would say 100% to do. It had to do with a message that I had to deliver to him on behalf of TJ. So ultimately, the thing that pushed Justin out the door, it did not come from me. And he will tell you that. It came from TJ. And everything about that situation is being misconstrued. And it's being, it's being twisted to fit a narrative. And people see I don't have a narrative, guys. I don't have an agenda. I'm just telling you the truth. When you don't have the truth on your side, all you can do is tell a narrative with an agenda and propaganda. And that's exactly what's going on. And that's why he was told that if he didn't come out against me, then they were going to do it for him. And that's exactly what they did on the Altcoin Daily interview. It was very planned and strategic. I gotta say, they're very good at strategy. They're very good at strategy. Was there
a physical altercation though between you and Jay Chains that ended in a lawsuit and a settlement?
No, absolutely not. No, absolutely not.
Okay, because I assumed there was an NDA and nobody could talk about it. And since you were no longer technically a hit network, you could talk about it. That's the reason I wanted to ask you. Because
there is an NDA. I didn't sign the NDA because I was the founder and the owner. I could do whatever I want, and I could talk about it if I wanted to. But what I would tell you is that what they're saying occurred did not occur in the way they're saying it occurred, and that is not what led him out the building.
Okay. Well, Jay Chains, if you're watching this, man, you're more than welcome to come on if you want to explain your side of what happened, because that's kind of what I gathered was that one, and it would have been the first physical altercation that took place at Hit Network per TJ, unless I'm getting the timeline on the headbutting thing wrong. But
there's no headbutting. There was no headbutting.
It was said you shoving your head into his hip.
No, I mean it wasn't like shoving my head. Look, there was. The what is being said about that is being overblown 1,000%. It's kind of like this. It's kind of like this, right? So if you and I were to get into it and we were to be very passionate, we were to be nose to nose to each other, nose to nose. Mm-hmm. That's not a physical altercation. Like
it's on the
no
brink
one would sit there and define that. Yeah, no, like if you saw two guys at a bar and they got nose to nose with each other and they were yelling at each other, and then that's all that happened, no one would describe that as a physical altercation. That's basically the equivalency of what's being used here against me.
Okay. Appreciate you explaining that, man. And again, Jay Chains, I'd love to get you on. Hopefully you're watching. Next question I wanted to ask about was the misappropriation of funds. Because they talked about you collateralizing NFTs, 2 Bored Apes, Mutant Ape, leveraged him for gambling, lost it, liquidated company portfolio to send to stake. And that would have been the portfolios that you had that you were doing videos on, I guess, like your ISO portfolio. Mm-hmm. That's what he's alleging. Unauthorized movement of funds for personal and gambling. That you were entitled to, and the argument was that you're entitled to 67% of the draw, but you took more than 67% of the draw.
That's 10,000% false.
And claiming that you own 100% of the company.
No, and 67% of the company, guys, the value of the company is high. And I've never touched close to 67%. And I see what they're doing. I know what they're doing. I'm not a dummy. I see their plan on how they're trying to characterize me. And this is what I'll tell you, Rise. There's no need for me to even go down through each of these allegations against me, because I could go down over each one and I can explain to you why each one is unequivocally false. But that actually, by having to go in and explain that gives it credibility. These things are so laughable and asinine and provable in court on my side that there's no reason to even address them than to say, I never misappropriated funds at work. That's 100% false allegations. And there's never been a documented case of any of this. There's not one piece of documentation where they can ever say that, oh, we went to him and we explained that, we thought he was doing this or that. It's never happened. So right. Like, as far as the misappropriation of funds and like the embezzlement with the stake contract, right? That like stake paid directly, and there's proof on the internet and everybody sees that the other side knew exactly what was going on with that situation. And stake itself, the people at stake would also tell you that Cassie was deeply involved in those negotiations. And let me tell you something that people don't know. Okay. Cassie was dealing with stake. Okay. TJ, I call TJ and I say, TJ, man,
and she did the deal. She actually was 100%. The person who did the deal.
She was the person. TJ only spoke with stake one time and Cassie was on the call. I only spoke with stake one time and she was on the call. She spoke to stake countless times And she continued to have a good relationship with them and talk to them the entire time. And the truth is, if it wasn't for Cassie, my staff could not have met the deliverables the state was asking for. There were multiple times. The first 6 weeks, we almost lost the deal because the people in my building were incapable of meeting the deliverables. And so Cassie had to step in, and she had to like come up to the office for a week and hold everybody's hand and show them how to do it. And we almost lost it. There was a week where they didn't pay us because we didn't meet the deliverables. So to pretend like that she wasn't involved in that deal, I mean, that shows the deep dishonesty that's going on there, and also why they deleted our emails, because obviously they were trying to delete communications between all of us, but yet we've got communication galore on Telegram, and of course, a lot of people never trusted TJ, and that's one reason why there were always screenshots taken and all of the meetings were recorded. So all of that stuff is unequivocally false. But what happens is I call TJ and I say, TJ, man, I think the state deal can be really good. I think we get 150K. And he agrees that that's what we're going to go for, is $150,000 a month. Cassie comes in the next day and says, guys, I've been doing some research. I think we can get $2 million per month. Excuse me? And we went through negotiation and we ended up at a price of $1 million per month with stake.com. And so because of that, like, that shows you right there that there was $850,000 per month of value that would have been missed out on if she did not negotiate that deal 100%. So it's just the lengths that have been gone to lie and try to make it seem like something has happened that hasn't happened. And they, like I said, they're extremely strategic. They've thought that they played a good game to try to make me look bad. But like the Cassie thing with Stake, like, very clearly provable. The fact that it was first reported as I assaulted TJ, and then they had to backtrack and go to attempted assault. It's like, and people can look at the timeline and you can see that every time there was a statement made about me, there was a different claim. It was a different allegation on why I was fired, right? Remember, we started with a relapse, right? That's where we started. We started with a relapse. Now we're to death threats. I think that was the latest narrative that they tried to push out, which is also 100% false. I've said the same story from day one. And I've spoken to a lot of people in law enforcement over this on different levels, in different jurisdictions of law enforcement. And I can tell you that, and every lawyer I say, they all say the same thing. They all say, when you look at the situation, it's very obvious who's being honest. It's very obvious who's lying. The thing is that when you look at what's realistic and what's possible, it just seems very, very far-fetched that people would go to this far of an extreme to try to tar and feather an innocent man. And yet that's what's happened. And I'm very confident that over time, and not a long time, I believe by the end of the year, that's exactly what people will see has happened here.
Well, I mean, like I told you, it makes Jerry Springer look just like normal stuff. Like, it's gone beyond. I mean, it's very movie worthy. It's just so calculated, like you said, on some sides, and then your side just, I mean, honestly, like Atozi, I think he was thankful for, in a way, being able to like roast you with the arrest, because he posted that. I think he ultimately posted that video on his channel.
That's fine. I tell you this. I just want to say this. In a year from now, people are going to look back on that video that I made and they're going to understand it. People are going to look back on that video and they're going to look at it with totally different eyes. People are going to see this story an entirely different way, because people believe that there's one story that's being told right now. And in reality, there's a totally different story underneath the surface that I can't get into. But there's something going on that's much, much, much bigger than just, I was mad about a Lamborghini, and people are going to see that. And I think in the future, people are going to look back when the TV show or the movie's out, and they're going to be shocked that that's all that I did. They're going to be shocked that I was able to power through this. They're going to be shocked that I've been able to make content and have a good attitude and joke around and play and make the best out of this situation. People are going to be shocked at the way that I've been able to go through this. And look, I think that was definitely not a great, that was something that played well for the other side. And I think maybe they thought when that all went down on that Monday, I think they believed they probably had me. They thought they had won. And there's never been, I want to be very clear here. There's never been one moment during this entire saga, no matter how it looks, that I wasn't going to win. There's never been one moment. It's just a matter of time and letting the process play out.
Okay. You mentioned Cassie, and one of the questions that I wanted to ask you in regards to her is aside from what was announced via Carlos Diaz with the audio leak with the affair and her being involved in Bitcoin and the stake deal, is there any other? Is she involved in this in any other way?
Yeah, certainly. I mean, she has been as vilified and victimized in this as I have. And in some ways even more because obviously, from what I see on my social media and from what most people tell me, and for me looking at the numbers is very obvious. People have came with me and they sided with me in this situation. And I would actually argue that, my reputation is better than it's ever been. And I can tell you after this is over, it's going to go through the roof. My reputation, and the kind of person I am, and my honesty and my transparency in crypto, it's going to be seen and it's going to be on full display. And there's going to be people who are going to say that I'm dishonest. They're going to have a really hard time after all this is out, ever making that accusation again. But the thing is I get positive stuff here. I get all the applause. Now I certainly get tomatoes from some people. I deserve some tomatoes for what I did for the affair. I get it. It wasn't something I ever thought was capable. I didn't think I was capable of doing it. I really didn't think it was in my DNA to ever do something like that. And I did it. And I take ownership of that. And so I do deserve, I am a hypocrite in a lot of ways with things I've said in the past. I get it. And it doesn't feel good by any stretch of the imagination. But she's getting drug on social media. She's getting drug over and over and over again. And the fact is, if you're going to drag her, then you need to drag me. People don't need to be giving her an unfair shake because she's the woman in the situation. I'm just as responsible as she is, and I take full responsibility for that. But it's like, there's a lot of people on the internet that are saying things like a lot of the degens are like, oh, look what Bitboy pulled, blah, 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 blah. Like, that's great. Like I get the comments from the boys that are making like comments like, oh, like I didn't like him before, but now, now I like him. Especially all the GTA memes, for instance.
Right.
And so there was certainly none of that stuff is, I don't take pride in any of that by any stretch of imagination, quite the opposite. But Cassie's getting nonstop drug on the internet, and she doesn't deserve it. And I would just really encourage everybody to support her. She's a great employee. She does a good job in everything that she does. And, she deserves that. I mean, obviously, everybody feels sorry for my wife. And she's gotten some bad comments, but the general perception of my wife is very good and she deserves that as well. She's been as good as gold through all this. She has been loyal even though I wasn't, and she deserves everybody's applause for sure. She deserves everyone's support for sure.
I commend
but
her.
That doesn't mean that people have to drag Cassie through the mud.
And I agree. I mean, and originally, technically, TJ and Hit Network, the whole thing, the announcement never included like the personal stuff like that, not the cheating. But he did insinuate in the interview with Altcoin Daily, and it seems like he was insinuating the situation was with J Chains, but that you had to kind of bring it more into present. Some people at the office were supposedly aware of you and Cassie's affair. You were asking TJ for a list of people so you could communicate with them. He said that this had happened previously, and that when he had given the names that you went after those employees. Did J Chains accuse you, or was there a previous affair that took place before?
There's no previous affair. There's absolutely no previous affair.
Cassie's the only woman that and I know
Cassie is the only
personal.
woman I've ever had an affair with. And there's not, I can assure you all, there's not a thing that's going to come out down the road to where like I'm some kind of predator and like I've got all these girls that I've been sleeping around with and stuff. Cassie is the only woman I've ever had an affair with in any relationship I've ever had in my entire life. And the insinuation that I wanted some kind of list of everybody so I could go confront them is 100% false. And once again, a narrative that has been twisted. The fact is that I was told a story that every single person in the office knew that I was having an affair. So what did I do? I went, I asked people, and I was told by employees that they did not know. So that left me with questions. And so I told TJ specifically over and over and over again, I didn't want to know who knew for a confrontation. That's false. Over and over and over again, I told him this. The fact is, I wanted to know how to operate at work. If everyone truly knew at work, then what we need to do is we needed to have a company meeting, and we just need to get it all out on the table and explain it. You need to understand we had about 35 employees there. I want you to think about the difference of this. If 7 people knew or 35 people know, that's quite a dramatic difference. If 7 people knew, then it's something that, okay, then we don't have to tell everybody about this, and we can try to fix it behind closed doors. If everyone knows, then it freaking needs to be addressed. And that was my take there. And there were things that have said, generalities and vague things in gray areas that were used in manipulation and persuasion over me. There were things that were told to me that were unequivocally false, simply to try to get me to go along with the company line that TJ wanted me to do and wanted me to toe. I was never confronted about this situation, and people knew. There were many people in the building that knew for at least since the beginning of May, a lot of them since April, if not before that. And so I just wanted to know how to operate at work. And I think that was a reasonable request. And the fact that he couldn't honor that reasonable request, that sent a lot of red flags up my way. I mean, here's the question. If everyone at work knew, then why did TJ call every employee and let them know that I was having an affair after the conversation we had? It didn't make sense. I could tell something wasn't adding up. Something wasn't adding up from the very beginning. And that's why I got I was so concerned about that situation. It wasn't that I wanted to know how I wanted to operate at work, but I could tell from the very beginning that TJ was lying to me about things. And that's what really alarmed me. And that's what led me to tell him that his dad, and Justin had to leave the building.